The clusterfuck. This is the real spiritual journey. No fluff, no bypassing, pure honesty. This world is a total clusterfuck. Every Sunday, we're going to embrace the cluster and attempt to unfuck it. And we attempt to unfuck it, not to perfect the world, but to better understand who we are and what the truth is. When we can sit back, observe, discuss, and analyze this giant clusterfuck, perhaps we can better understand ourselves and come up with simple solutions. Visit the website at theclusterfuck.com for links to all of the streaming and podcast platforms and social media. Now let's get ready to unfuck the cluster. All right, everybody. It is Sunday afternoon on the clusterfuck, and here we are. And as might be expected, because we live near an airbase, there is a jet flying over. Maybe they're, I don't know, prepping for a certain event that's happening somewhere overseas. But I'm going to warn you guys on this show, if I'm a little slow, it's because I'm working on about 2 hours of sleep if I'm lucky. So if I start to sound like the teacher on Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you'll know why. I apologize. As a long story, I will be going to bed early tonight, and I was up working early. So if I'm a little slow, it's because the brain needs some more sleep. But we will try to get through this episode here. We are talking Dark Enlightenment today. And for those of you who don't know what Dark Enlightenment is, we're going to learn about that. Before we do, I want to remind you, for those of you who are coming in here, or going to come in here, or watching this on replay, remember to click that like button. Subscribe, of course, and if you feel so willing, I guess the word is, please share it on your social media feed. It helps it go a long way. Also, Walter Bosley is coming next Sunday. Should be a fun show. We're talking about Disneyland as a portal. Latitude 33. You heard that here. The 33. That number comes up a lot. I don't have anything. I know what it means, but we're going off my script today, guys. We gotta stick to it. My mind can't wander too far because it's too tired. 2 hours of sleep when you're almost 49 is just not enough. I can't pull these, party all night 20-year-old stuff anymore. But here I am. We are talking the Dark Enlightenment. I see there's a few of you in already. Thank you so much. John Aside is here, Incognito, and Dorothy, and I'm sure there's a few more of you. Don't forget to click those thumbs up, because it tells the algorithm, hey, this is a good show, we like it, suggest it to other people. Now we know we have a lot of crazy things happening right now. I guess I could do an Iran update, but it's going to change moment to moment. All I can say is Donald Trump has definitely got himself into a situation that he thought would be done quick. It's not easy to back out of. MAGA is being deluged by lies, of course, and propaganda. The crazy stuff coming out of Lindsey Graham's mouth. He's literally on news. I don't know if it's NBC or something like that, wearing merch and everything. Wearing merch. Like, we're going to kick ass. We're going all global. We're taking all this global, and his disgusting acts. I've never liked that man. Donald Trump is basically saying they're surrendering. Donald Trump's blaming Iran for bombing their own school, which is, we know US did it. It's the equivalent of blaming Russia for bombing their own pipeline, which is what Biden administration did. Just crazy, crazy stuff going on here now. And this is an example. It's a good way to segue into the Dark Enlightenment, because this is part of the Dark Enlightenment. This is part of the goals of the Dark Enlightenment, and it's what I call Watiko. We are infiltrated with Watiko, and we're going to discuss what that is, because Watiko is important to this Dark Enlightenment, and I think the reason we have these technocrats who believe in this philosophy, which really Dark Enlightenment, we'll go into the specifics, but it is the inversion of the Age of Aquarius, which we've talked about on this show before. So we're going to start with Watiko, Dark Enlightenment. We're going to go through it, but we're going to end on the dust, the plasma dust, and solutions to Watiko at the end. So be sure to stick around. Hopefully we can do this without a break, and I can just go through, and we can wrap this up. But Sons and Daughters of Liberty, thank you for coming. Says, it's a crazy world, and never a dull moment indeed. And that's Watiko. And so, hope you don't mind my little background music. I just thought, let's be a little zen. Let's kind of chill out here a little bit. And we'll discuss what constitutes Watiko. And we'll pop over here, because, you know, when settlers, or I should say colonialists, first came to North America, the native Indians here recognized Watiko in them right away. And it's not that native Indians never had Watiko, but they didn't have it like this, and they kind of understood that it happened in human beings. It could also be called the Wendigo spirit in some things, mind virus. It's an ancient, this Dark Enlightenment as well wraps into that. It's ancient, right? But they recognized it in a way with the colonialists, and they knew they could never outdo it. Like, it's almost, you know, they knew that their technology and their way of living was going to be usurped by this Watiko. So we're going to go and start talking about just the basics of Watiko. Maybe we'll watch a video on it and go over that, and then get into what the Dark Enlightenment is. And we'll, you know, we're going to obviously focus on the Trump administration, because they're the ones in power. And it doesn't mean that the Democrats or any other politics don't have Watiko. They most certainly do. But we are going to use the Trump administration, because MAGA is highly tied to this Dark Enlightenment from the technocrats. And so, of course, Watiko, as I have it popped up here on the screen for you guys, is essentially, it's an Algonquin term for a cannibalistic spirit or a mind virus that's driven by an insatiable greed, excess, and selfish consumption. It originating in First Nations tradition, it describes a spiritual and psychological sickness where an individual loses their connection to the community, nature, the world, the plasma, the dust, everything that connects us, and it leads them to cannibalize the life force of others for personal profit or power. Watiko. So those three things: a mind virus, insatiable hunger, greed, a collective psychosis. It's like colonialism, extreme capitalism, like monopoly, not your free market trading with each other and, you know, selling things to each other and trade. Not that. Environmental destruction at your own peril. It's called Watiko infection, and I believe we're dealing with this in a way that we've probably never seen. All empires have it. And it's ancient. Ancient. and I have some videos on it. We should pop that up, some videos of it. Let me know here in the chat if you guys have heard of Wetiko, or seen Wetiko, or you have an example of it. Pop it up in the chat and let me know how you feel about this description, because I was, saying, how am I going to start off this show? And I was talking about it with my husband, and I thought, we've got to define this psychosis, this mind virus, because that's what Dark Enlightenment is. But Dark Enlightenment in itself is ancient. It's nothing new. It's just manifesting in such an abrupt way because of the technology that we've developed. And technology, like money, like anything, could be used in good and constructive way. But Wetiko uses it for the most devious things, and the inversion of humanity, almost the destruction of humanity. And I'm not even trying to be woo here to you guys, or socialists or communists, but we are all connected. And when I talked about the dust, hello, Kirby. This is kind of vampiric, Kirby. I know you like the vampires, and we do have to do an episode on it. It's cannibalistic. It's consumption of energy. It's a vampire of sorts, a vampire mind virus. And I want to go into my screen here, and we're going to get into the Wetiko, and then a good example of it. I love to do video examples because it really does help define. We're going to pause the music here. It really does help define it when you hear other people speak of it, and we can kind of hash it out because they have other ideas that I don't. We've got some great videos from some great channels. A lot of the links are in the show notes, not all, but they are, so you can check there if you like some of these videos. But I encourage you to go on YouTube and look up Wetiko. There's a lot of people are talking about it. They've got a lot of good information and solutions. Will they work? I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Here we go. So, Wetiko. Let's go here, because David Icke,
this energetic field.
We're going to listen to him for a few minutes, and we're going to listen to him talk about Wetiko. Then we're going to get into the Dark Enlightenment. And we'll revisit this at the end for solutions. We won't get into solutions right now because we're going to explain. And this is David Icke talking about Wetiko.
In which is all happening, which connects everything, which is holding these high vibrational, low vibrational energies depending on the location and depending on the situation, has become dominated by this low vibrational consciousness that I call in the series Wetiko. It's a very chaotic, inverted, low vibrational energy, and it is the consciousness that's driving your Bill Gateses, your Anthony Fauci's, and all these people, your Klaus Schwab's. They are personifications, expressions in physicality of this Wetiko. And the idea is to, and it is fear. This Wetiko, when it came into the world, brought fear. You talk to through mediums, etc., to people, consciousness out there beyond this world of humans, and they tell you it's a place of love, it's a place of joy, it's a place of happiness, and not a place of fear, because they know there's nothing to fear, because they know the nature of infinite reality, eternal life. But this Wetiko brought fear into the world, and
of course it relies on fear, to keep going. It really does. You have to have fear. Hello, Road Trip. We're talking about Wetiko. Let me pop up this, just in case you want to watch David Icke do this little clip. You guys can go check it out yourselves after the show if you missed it. I'll put it in the chat. The perks of being here live. But let's finish this off, and then we'll start getting into the Dark MAGA and the point where I guess you could call them technocrat elites, really showed their hand, but yet many mega people didn't see what was happening and how they were or long ago usurped by this Watiko, by this Dark Enlightenment, and then they just played their hand. I'll show you some scenes, and we'll get into psyops and how all this stuff plays out in the Dark Enlightenment, and what it is, and who really is the kind of philosophizing mastermind behind the Dark Enlightenment. Let's finish this off.
What it seeks to do is to bring the target population into those levels of fear, which also manifest as depression and anxiety and anger and conflict and all these things, to bring them, the population, into that frequency so it can attach to them. And when it attaches to them, it starts to influence their perceptions and behavior. And this has been massively obvious in the COVID era. So you've got the five senses, and then immediately around the five senses, you've got, if you like, the five sense subconscious. And it wants to get into the five sense subconscious with perceptions and perceptual states, which then filter through to the conscious mind. And at that point, people think they're having their own thoughts and opinions.
But they're not having their own thoughts and opinions. And psyops and politics is Watiko on crack. It is insane. And so now we get into the moment that we saw, not that Watiko or Dark Enlightenment was invented, because it was playing behind the scenes all along, but the moment during this campaign, during Trump's campaign, in which we saw the Dark Enlightenment unfold. And MAGA, in my opinion, was sort of Trump's version of the Tea Party that had come out. And I knew the guy who started the Tea Party. He was in all those X groups, Twitter groups of MAGA people sharing stuff, and he left it. I don't think he liked what MAGA was stood for or became. I don't think he was in for it at all. I think he was quite disappointed. But it started out as something very American, small business, small this, and of course, we should have known when Trump usurped it that it was going to go this way. But I'm going to play this clip. You guys remember, we're going to go through Trump's assassination in a little bit. This happened after the what I call faux assassination of Donald Trump, because that was obviously meant to bind people to him, to boost his ratings. They know this Watiko. They know all these psyop crazy stuff pulls people to them and infests their brains, and it infested all of our brains. I will take responsibility for that, because I guess that's the first step. The first step is admitting you've got a problem. But check it out. Elon Musk shows up, and instead of MAGA, he says this during Trump's campaigns. And suddenly he went from Democrat to Trump. He says this.
MAGA. I'm Dark Gothic MAGA.
What do you think could have been done if you just had like full reign and total cooperation? How much do you think you could have saved?
I mean, what level of power are we assuming here?
Godlike.
Oh yeah, I could probably cut the federal budget in half. And get more done.
That is so crazy. Well, now, Mr. Yard.
Okay, so that was Elon Musk saying, I'm Dark Gothic MAGA, and he is wearing the Dark MAGA hat, the black hat. And the X sign and everything that he's about, it is so occultic, but not in a good way. It's not an occult that's meant to help people. He talks about it right there. Absolute power. He's like, I'm Dark MAGA. Like some crazy things playing out there. And so we're going to go into, again, I'm going to show you the Trump assassination. We're going to revisit that, because this was the point where they were ushering this in. And Elon is part of the Dark Enlightenment. And the biggest player, of course, is Peter Thiel. But these guys are influenced by another guy who they fund, which we'll get to eventually. But we're going to go through what it is. And we're going to play a couple videos here. We're going to go over this again. We've seen this before. We're going to go over kind of time traveling, but not. We are going to look at the moment of the Trump assassination attempt, and then we'll look at the other angle from it. I'm going to show you the psyop that happened just before the Dark MAGA was revealed. There's no volume on it. What happened to the volume? That's weird. Okay, well, there's no volume on it. That's unfortunate. It screenshotted it without the volume. Well, that's no good. Okay, so that is it. We'll pause that there. And then hopefully, do they do the volume on this one? Because they're not, for some reason, my screen capture didn't do the volume on that one. But you see, when Trump, and I'll just talk about it, he does that and he's talking and it goes pow, 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 pow. And when I watch it on hindsight, you don't really see anything hit him. He just jumps down. It's like it's staged. And then, of course, he has the ear and he comes up and he pumps his fist. And that's what we see straight on. But from the other angle, we reviewed this. There's another video out there in my list of live streams where I show the video with sound. And it essentially is from a different angle. And you see his men, the CIA or whatever was with him, Secret Service. They usher in photographers. They lower down the flag, totally staged. And then, of course, that is when Elon Musk says, I support Trump, and then he comes out with Dark MAGA. That was when they were literally telling us, hey, we're the Dark Enlightenment, and we're here. We have always been underneath this. Remember, Peter Thiel always sponsored Trump. He donated to him in his first term, I believe, or at least the second when he lost in 2020. He's put money towards him several times. And you can go to the video where we talk about Peter Thiel. And of course, they all get in with Trump. And here we have Doge. All this stuff happens where they're getting into the system and they're trying to infiltrate their whole technology in. And it seemed odd at the time that Elon, I have to admit, I had this like, that's weird that someone who's a lifelong Democrat suddenly is Dark MAGA and Trump. Like, it seemed really weird. And everything seemed staged. And I remember, like, I was constantly saying, I feel like it's Plato's cave. It's the allegory of the cave. And we're watching shadows on the wall. And they're doing this entertainment like a movie, and something else is happening. And the Dark Enlightenment is happening. Trump becomes the figure he's infiltrated in that will do Dark MAGA, that will do the push to a singularity point that is not pro-humanity. It is for the destruction of humanity. Dark Enlightenment, I said, is the opposite of the age of Aquarius is supposed to be. So they pull you away from any real spiritual enlightenment and say, hey, we're pulling you along with our Dark Enlightenment, which is a total oxymoron to call something the Dark Enlightenment. I mean, if you really get to it, it's such an oxymoron. Okay? And again, the Dark Enlightenment itself is an ancient mind virus. Technocrat Utopia. We will be the gods that save the day. We will give you all this stuff if you just let us take control of everything. We will be the government. We will be everything for you. We will be your savior. No self-autonomy. You can hook yourself into our system. So now what does this Dark Enlightenment kind of virus. What is it saying? What is it called? And that produces this video here that we're going to call millennialism. Dun, dun. We got to go over here. And millennialism, you probably heard it under different names. But essentially,
You've been promised incredible things with AI, but has it actually lived up to all the hype?
I hate that when commercials come on. I actually had to upload this because I ran out of space on my system. We're going to play this thing on millennium.
Hearing so
And it's by Norman Cohn, The Pursuit of the Millennium. Okay, I'll get that right. Remember, guys, I told you I'm working on 2 hours of sleep and I'm keeping the Watiko at bay, so I'm doing pretty good. So this is millennialism. Millennial. Okay, I'm going to stop speaking that word and we'll just listen to Cohn talk about this for a few minutes.
hearing so much. The millennium that I'm concerned with is quite a different matter. Now, originally, millennium tends to be forgotten these days, but originally it was a theological term. It referred to the 1,000 years during which, according to the book of Revelation, Christ will reign on this earth before the last judgment. Even in the book of Revelation, this millennium has nothing to do with the year 1000 or 2000 or indeed with any particular date. And in recent years, the meaning of millenarian has been widened still further. It's become customary amongst anthropologists and sociologists, and to some extent also amongst historians, to use the word simply as a convenient label for a particular kind of salvationism. And that's how I'm using the word. Now, I must indicate as best I can the kind of salvationism I have in mind. The movements that I'm going to look at, they differ widely from one another, but they all have certain features in common. The salvation that they envisage is always imagined as three things. First, it's imagined as collective, in the sense that it's to be enjoyed by the faithful as a group. It's not a matter of individual salvation, it's a matter of collective salvation. And secondly, it's terrestrial, in the sense that it's to be realized on this earth and not in some otherworldly paradise. And thirdly, it is total. Total in the sense that it's utterly to transform life on this earth, so that the new dispensation, the millenarian dispensation, if you like, will be no mere improvement on the present lamentable state of affairs, but it will be perfection itself.
Okay, so you heard that. It's about this utopia. It's a perfectionism. It is collective. Everyone has to be totally, utterly faithful to it. It is in this time. It is total, absolute singularity and control, which, if you look at the definition of what they're calling the Dark Enlightenment, which is often abbreviated as NRX, Neo-Reactionary Movement, it's an anti-democratic, anti-egalitarian, very un-American, and reactionary philosophical movement. Curtis Yarvin, we'll get to him, he's the pusher of this, and he is also sponsored by Peter Thiel. It advocates for a return to traditional, which is okay, but hierarchical and authoritarian forms of government. So that would be the tech bros. It emerged in the late 2000s from online, often libertarian-leaning blogosphere. But most of them are not. It's mostly like this sort of neo-fascism, this techno-fascism that seeks for utter control over every element of your life. exit over voice. It says, instead of reforming a broken system, what the Dark Enlightenment advocates for is destroying the entire system and creating new systems through the creation of specialized independent city-states, smart cities, freedom cities, whatever else they want. Two original figures, I said Curvis Yarvin, who's also known as Mencius Moldbug. That's a great name if you are crazy. He has this neo-cameralism and the cathedral theory. It's also Nick Land, an English philosopher who coined the term Dark Enlightenment and developed the movement's focus on accelerationism, speeding up technological and capitalist change to collapse existing social structures. And in my personal opinion, that means to collapse humanity, probably pushing towards a transhumanism. It is the collapse of humanism in of itself for this perfectionism that doesn't exist. Now, we got a really cool channel called Dr. Deep State. He comes at it from a Catholic point of view, which I don't necessarily espouse because I know most religion is infiltrated with Watiko anyways, and it's used as propaganda. They take the original source and all the elements of it and use it the same way Trump used Tea Party. They just infiltrate it and craft it into authoritarianism. But we're going to watch some of his videos because he really gives Dark Enlightenment in this one video, and he's got a slew of videos. He does them all the time. I encourage you to look up Dr. Deep State on YouTube, very intellectual, but he does this really good layout of it. And we're going to get into talking about how trauma is the catalyst, I guess, for a lot of this kind of Watika, this mind virus, this kind of enlightenment. There's this trauma that a lot of these people have. And if you notice, a lot of these people that will push this dark enlightenment, they're not poor. They're actually from wealthy families, but they're arrogant. They're stuck up. They look down on people. They think they have the answer to everything, like God, as if they could ever. So we're going to look at what Dr. Deep State, I've got quite a few clips from him. We're going to start off with the trauma. And if you guys remember, I did a video on trauma as in demonic possession and how it gets in the body, gets in your thoughts, gets in there and stores and acts like a possession, and that you've got to move the energy along. You've got to kind of bust out that energy and destroy it, get rid of the trauma and the energy that's sitting in your body. That's how I look at it. But we're going to see how Dr. Deep State looks at it. I like some of his ideas, although he comes at it from a Catholic perspective. Let's check that out.
Economic, military, media, they're all working in conjunction for this goal of preparing the minds and hearts for people for the Antichrist. And what this involves is a grand summoning. And so the summoning takes place, yes, in various rituals, but it's really about keeping you attached to the shadow figures. When we are attached to them, we participate in this grand summoning, bringing on these creatures from the ethereal realm. And as crazy as that sounds, it's being externalized in front of our faces. And the people involved in this will tell you, no, none of this is real but then, being involved in the predictive programming that kind of confirms all of this. And a lot of it is about chaos, keeping you molded in fear and shock and trauma en masse, to atomize you, to break you down, and keep you viewing the images on the cave wall.
Okay, so we'll come back to some of his other videos, but we'll kind of talk about that trauma and the chaos and the fear. Really, like we said, that's how Watiko runs. That's how it runs, is based on fear. And the fear keeps you trapped into their system. And it also keeps you going to them as the power struggles, but you don't realize they're creating all this trauma all the time. And everything is always projected into the future. Like, we will give you this when you do this. It's like they're constantly dangling a carrot, and there really is no solution. There's just them creating the chaos, creating the pain body, the pain, that we'll have bliss if we just follow the leader, do what the tech says, the priest, the AI god, whatever it is. It's this virus in our system. PsyOps, of course, is a huge way that they play out this pain and this trauma. They bring out the PsyOps, the Donald Trump assassination, Charlie Kirk, JFK. These are just some recent ones. I'm sure they've done this all along. You can go look at David Icke talk about it. You can go look at a whole bunch of people talk about PsyOps. Chase Hughes is a good channel. He he outright tells you about PsyOps. And he could be working for the CIA for all I know. But even real events that look real are staged. Assassinations. That's what they just did with the Ayatollah in Iran. They thought if they caused this trauma, it would cause chaos. It would cause everything to crumble. But it didn't work. It's kind of coming back on them, and it's Watiko coming up against people who actually have this real faith. I'm not saying Iran doesn't perform their own psyops or doesn't, do propaganda or anything like that. They certainly do. But we have this is how they break things up. This is how they control things and merge in their dark enlightenment systems all over the world, all over globally. Think Oklahoma bombing, serial killers, Charlie Kirk, World War II, Pearl Harbor. I mean, I could keep going on and on and on about all these things. I think, do we have a comment? Trauma is MK Ultra. Yeah, and it's a form of MK Ultra, but it's this ancient virus. It's an ancient infiltration. Some people call it Elder Bea, some people call it some false god, but excuse me, it's this really creepy way of thinking that infiltrates our thoughts and our minds and pulls us away from our own divinity, our own personality, our own abilities, and it wraps us up into this whole drama. It's like watching a crazy ass soap operas, and a lot of this shows online, even Candace Owens aims to do that. I see them all bashing each other. I swear they get together and go, hey, let's create another drama between Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, and let's just play it out like a soap opera. So we're not watching on the news necessarily. We're watching on the internet, and the internet is a fantastic, of course, created by the military. It's a fantastic place to play out these psyops and traumatize people and keep them upset and make them depressed, etc., etc., etc. So we're going to go into the cave allegory. We're going to look at Dr. Deep State again, because I really like this guy's explanation of it.
Economic, military.
So we're going to go for video number 2. And let's check her out.
Fallen state and have unlimited potential. And this virus is very ancient, and we've been discussing it this week, especially through Norman Cohen wrote a book in 1957 called In Pursuit of the Millennium.
That's what I just showed to you. I gave you a clip of him talking about the 3 criteria of it with a singularity, all that stuff, the 3 criteria of millennium. This is what they're using. And we'll get into the key players and Curtis Yarvin in a little bit, but this is the world of psyops, of course.
And he said that it comes from trauma, from a certain group of people, and they have foisted this pathology onto the minds of the world. And I was greatly influenced by Norman Coleman's book from 1957, and I kind of adjusted it to some sense to a Christian Catholic paradigm and into the advancing artificial intelligence economy that surrounds us today. So millennialism is the belief in a future age of transformation and a renewal that precedes the final judgment. It is often associated with the expectation of a 1,000-year reign of the saints with Christ in a kingdom established on earth. This concept has been present in various historical movements, including those referred to as scholastic, as well as contemporary Christian eschatology, both premillennialism and postmillennialism. We argue that these movements, these eschatological movements, were incorporated into different branches of Protestantism with the intention of forging a specific type of political religion. This political
So I'm gonna kind of argue because it's infiltrated in Catholicism too. For I mean, there's no avoiding it. It's everywhere, or especially where the top of power is, right? And so mixing politics with spirituality and calling it religion is the one way that they pull you away from yourself and your autonomy. Yes, you are in a group. Yes, you belong to a family, but ultimately you are an individual that is connected to a bunch of other individuals. And I have argued on the show before and in the past that essentially what these guys are doing, these technocrats, they are trying to play God. They're offering you the solution away from all the horrible terrors of the world, and they're doing it by mimicking the organic structure that exists. And therefore they are the gods, and they want to pull you away from that and pull you into their system so they can control everything. But of course they don't think the way the universe does, and I think it's short-sighted, of course, but hey, what do I know? Of course, the allegory of the cave, like I said before, really plays out here because you're looking at shadows on the wall. What they're showing you is not how the world really is, and you're trapped. MAGA is trapped. Democrats are trapped. Communists are trapped. Anyone who's doing some kind of worship are trapped. At some level, Iranians are also trapped. They're trapped looking at shadows, and they never step out of the box. Fear of abandonment, these biological needs that we have to belong in a group, tribalism, all that stuff. No one walks away and says, oh, hey, look, here's some other stuff. Hey, look at there's the man behind the machine controlling this. Hey, maybe maybe you're a MAGA person and you felt weird about the whole dark MAGA stuff, or you're feeling odd about certain things. And even when things like the Charlie Kirk assassination happens, they'll hear people say, hey, I think that's fake. And they'll insert somebody in there to take on the narrative to lead you down the line, even for the fake, like you're suspicious of the FBI. It's so convoluted. It's actually a little spooky.
religion would operate dialectically. That's the alchemy. It's the Marxism. That's the Kabbalah. Dialectically within the empire of spectacle, the cave wall, where we get.
So there he's talking about Kabbalah, and he feels like Kabbalah is that religion of, a certain group that is really what we're going to be pulled into. It's going to be like Noahide laws, stuff like that, like Christianity, anyone Muslim, they want to pull you into this whole system of Noahide laws. That's pretty brutal. And these are all intended, all these psyops, all these things that they do, all these crashing of economies. It's constructed as part of this enlightenment to bring about absolute singularity, globalism, total control, police state. I mean, America's probably been a police state or a growing police state since after the assassination of JFK, for sure, for sure, for sure. But there's this singularity point and hive mind where you're all attached to it, and it is just predictable, controllable, accessible, manipulated, and there's no real true human spirit. It's the opposite of Age of Aquarius. It's tricking you, and it is the opposite of human innovation, human spirit, human creativity, human love and connectivity. It's the total opposite. In fact, it's like it needs your fear and your energy to even operate. If that makes any sense to any of you little guys, chime in, guys. Chime in. Don't be afraid. So we've got Hollywood, media, military, religion, government are all part of this global preparing people's minds and emotion for this thing that they call the Antichrist. So they're playing this out, whether it's their Messiah from the Zios, Antichrist stuff. They're really playing out this stuff in the Bible. That's propaganda anyways. You hear them say this, there's this figure, we have to protect you from the Antichrist, when they literally are the Antichrist. They're the opposite of this good consciousness and creative source. That they are that which they want to save you from. And that's why I get a little tiffy about his Catholic narrative, because, as if Catholic Church hasn't done anything traumatic to anyone. And so they're like, I'm saying, like, is the Antichrist its own virus? It's like they create this system and they put viruses in it and terror and to permanently destroy us. Orpho Treshula says, it's like a right-wing version of the Frankfurt School. The system is all really hating. Self-hating. Yeah. I wonder if it's driven by hate addiction. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why they want to put you in fear. They want you to be like, those Muslims are different from me. Those Christians are different. These people are different than me, when really you're all human. You all connect to the same source, the plasma, the dust, whatever you want to call it. If you go and look at that book we talked about with plasma, they say that it's dust and it like surrounds, the sun's made up of it, and there's like these dust clouds of plasma that surround the planet, and it's intelligence. It's observing us. It actually can see what we're doing. And I know people are like, that's the UFOs, whatever, but it's this dust that's aware. And I don't know that it's like wicked or means bad, because if it did, it probably have done something by now. But yeah, hate, anger, rage, it's very addictive, but it's exhausting, and it leaves you like a zombie, and it leaves you like all you do is like, it just rants in your head, right? And you just become obsessed with, these people are evil, that person's evil, I hate this and I hate that, and let's get this person, and let's blah, 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 blah. But the Antichrist itself is a virus. Yes, A New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple. I'm actually listening to the audiobook right now, so recommended it on the last show. I think that his concept of plasma is not only fascinating, but something that is a driving force, and something that they're trying to copy. They're trying to pull us away from that kind of thing and into their fake digital world, their neural link that links us all, and presented as a salvation. Well, what do I need to be saved from? From them, right? It's presented as a salvation, but it easily is becoming police state, authoritarian, control, shut down your car, control your electricity, control everything you do, control your movement. And this Dark Enlightenment is the religious philosophy behind it, because it doesn't like democracy. It doesn't like people to be individuals. It doesn't like diversity in thoughts or thinking. It wants to meld you all into the hive mind. Which brings us to Mr. Deep State again.
Fallen state.
We're going to go for his video number 3. And then we'll get into Curtis Yarving and some of these people who are playing it out. And then solutions to Watiko. All right, number 3 is, here we are.
Every now and then thinking, how is this playing out in the world today? And PSYOPs are a necessary part of really getting out of the trauma inducement from all of the events going on in the world that keep you stuck to the shadow images in the cave walls. And it was a fascinating book, and I'll include some of the commentary at the end that helps pull us together, how this is a network and it has an intention, and that intention is to really atomize the souls of men through disassociation. We could go from Charles Manson to on and on with the cases. Ramirez. we went through all of them, but there's some common features to all of them, And what this essentially is doing is
So his sign there says dissociate means to disconnect from your thoughts, memory, identity, surroundings, which can range from mild experiences like daydreaming to severe conditions like dissociative identity disorder. Mild temporary dissociation is calming during stress or while engrossed in something, but when it's severe, frequent, or occurs after trauma, it can indicate a mental health disorder, such as dissociative amnesia. You forget, they gaslight you. The trauma makes you forget things, forget who you are. It puts you in a rage. It can make you turn against people you once loved. You have memory gaps, feeling detached from your own self, feeling that the world isn't real, right? When it is real, you don't want to dissociate from everything. You want to get out there and touch grass, as they say, touch grass.
experimenting with disassociation to bring it on to the masses. And that might sound sort of far-fetched, but the book cites this program right here, the Phoenix program, that coupled with, Project Mockingbird, Project Artichoke, Project Chaos. These were experiments that would lead to bringing on this world control.
So he's talking about these systems, these MK Ultra programs that they have developed in order to break us apart from reality and bring us into their dark triad of fucking hell. It keeps the public in an infantile state, herd management. You don't want to do anything yourself. You don't want to take responsibility. You don't want to achieve anything. You're just like, yeah, you do it for me. You do it for me. And every time there's a problem, you go to these authority figures who created the problem in the first place. That's the Hegelian dialect, for a solution. And their solution is always to steer you more and more into this control system, this dark enlightenment, this hive mind, as you will, where everything is monitored, everything is controlled. Their kind of databases and their clouds are mimicking the organic, but in the organic system, it's not to control you. It's just a storage thing so you can learn, make mistakes. We're allowed to be imperfect. This world is allowed to have imperfections, and we're allowed to be human. The organic world loves our humanness. God would love our humanness. He wouldn't forsake us for it. You know what I mean? This system is like, ew, human, yuck. Let's merge you in this system for number one, because we're parasites and we need your energy. But also, we're very insecure. We feel like any moment you could rise up and take us out. So we need to disassociate you, break you down, crack you down, and put you in this system where you'll never be able to escape. It's like the ultimate abusive relationship, except for it's an entire global system. They're doing this right now to Iran, and you can see Trump lying and lying. You can see, and this isn't just Trump. The Democrats are in on this. They're allowing this. They'll vote for this war to happen. Remember, Hillary wanted this to happen. They're all part of this system. They don't really care. But the tech bros are really running it, and there's obviously some kind of evil Watiko above them that dictates them and pushes them, because it's never enough. More and more and more and more power, more control, more technology, more, and half of these techno boys are like drug addicts and tweaking out. They're on they're literally like, a little more polished, high-tech version of Hitler. Methamphetamines, mescaline, going to creepy islands, torture, child trafficking, just Watiko in a way I don't think we've ever seen. But they were very clever in covering it up in a facade of caring, and we're just going to do this technology is here to help you. And of course, it reached a tipping point where it doesn't, you realize it doesn't love your humanness. It actually hates you for being human.
Control of the world mind. And if that seems far-fetched, these are literally the documented cases those projects would be extended to the target audience, which is the world population. And so if nobody's familiar with Aquino here, with Sammy Davis and Anton.
Aquino works in the military, by the way, so that's how you know, like, there's all this kind of Watiko, satanic, and it's not just kids dressing in goth, trying to be unique. These are devious people who know to do things on military bases because they have their own rules and they probably can't be prosecuted for anything they do there. So and experimentation goes on people. Horrible things happen to our soldiers, by the way, and experiments happen on soldiers as well in the military. Don't forget that.
Hanging out at his church there in San Francisco. And we went into cases how that has been adopted by the US military and other things from PSYOP to mind war, psychological victory. We included that in our studies this week, that this is a very real thing, that there really is an ontological war over reality, and that our institutions, higher institutions, economic, military, media, they're all working in conjunction.
And he talks about Kabbalah in the institutions, Noahide laws. It's an inversion of nature. It develops. They want us to go from birth to death with Noahide laws and Kabbalah. The Utopia is the future. Everything is the future. Nothing will be given to you in the now. It'd always be, well, if you just follow us this way, like I said. Biopolitics. So let's go into him. I believe he gets into biopolitics, and then we'll switch into Curtis Yarvin and some of the players in this dark enlightenment and where it came from and who and what they say. We'll try to find a video of Curtis too, because when I first seen him talk, I thought I wasn't impressed. I think these people are really stupid and dumb because Watiko's stupid. These things are not giving you brilliance. They're just giving you you'll see when you hear him. Let's go for the last video of Dr. Deep State, whom I encourage you to check out his channel, by the way. And he talks about Elon in this video and other people.
Politics.
So you'll see.
So I begin again by the discipline I'm interested in. I'm in political science, and I have a special interest in biopolitics and biosecurity. And biopolitics, the way I have described it from the very beginning of this channel, is that it's essentially putting Kabbalah, and I'll talk about that a little bit, Kabbalah into the constitutions and the institutions of man, so that we're completely surrounded from birth to death with these concepts. So the central theme of this concept is to take God's heavenly kingdom and put it into the future and into an imminent or earthly frame. So he's twisting that. Okay, so biopolitics is ultimately about the physical, mental, spiritual control of the human population. Technological singularity functions within this enduring matrix of control. It strives for the total inversion of the cosmic order through the inversion of logos. That is, it strives for the creation of one mind that will reverse engineer creation. So
Okay, so that is insanely devious. I think this is why they're playing with the DNA and the vaccinations. They want to undo creativity itself. This whatever this virus is so hateful that it wants to destroy the very thing that creates everything that even the technology depends on. Really, like it's some strain at some point. I think it starts out as not necessarily a virus, but or a mind problem. It starts out as innovation, but I think along the way, the whole Watiko enters, you get greed, you power, and you literally start doing things that make no sense to all of humanity. You forget as you get into a world that's not real. You forget that you're connected to other human beings. You forget you don't even, maybe they know about this dusty plasma, or maybe they don't, or maybe they just forget. But they forget that they're connected to people, and everything they do to people eventually comes to them. And if they see things as a pyramid where they're on top and they're eroding the pyramid, well, eventually it collapses. And they think with their technology, they can outdo nature. They can outdo the universe, which is kind of funny. It's like you can kind of imagine Darth Vader and the Emperor going around with their destroyer floating within the Force, thinking they're going to undo the Force by terror and fear and control. It's kind of laughable, and I think that's why I know Star Wars is a movie, but when Obi-Wan Kenobi's facing Darth Vader and he says, "If you strike me down, I'll be more powerful than ever," because he knows he'll be one with that plasma, that force, that this deep state dark lord is not connected to anymore. He's somewhere dark. He's Dark Enlightenment. This stuff plays out in movies. So watch for it. We'll finish this video and I'll go through a couple of the comments and then we'll get into who Curtis Yarvin, Psycho Boy, is and who some of these people are. And they're not very nice people, by the way. They've lost their humanity a long time ago. Watiko has rotted their brains right out.
Pull everything together. That's a quote from me. It begins the book, Singularity. So I just like to begin with the end in mind. That's where we're pulling all these different dots for the week together. But we're going to talk about the Dark Enlightenment, the tech bros, and I will argue that it's really the same mind that they're all working from, that any competition between one and another is staged. There's one agenda to bring the Internet of Bodies and transhumanism into being. And most of the people on the world stage are actors, whether we say that in the political science sense or the thespian sense, and they're there to pull this agenda along in that direction.
Okay, so they're all pulling us along, dangling the carrot in that direction. So we've got Dorothy says she's listening to A New Science of Heaven. She's enjoying it. Excellent. Orfeo says a side effect of narcissism, pride, must be an addiction to content, both as fuel and a tool of control. Some people thrive on it. I think, though, it wears you down faster. I think angry people, their heart tends to get all messed up, or they start having stomach issues. They trap trauma. Remember, a lot of this is based in trauma. I don't know what kind of trauma these guys have, but there's some kind of trauma that they're worried about dying, that their mortality. I think a lot of these people want to live forever, and they want their minds uploaded in the cloud. And if they only realized the reality and that of the universe, they wouldn't be so much worried about that. They would just enjoy the world as it is, maybe try to make it better, but not a control system to make everyone's life miserable and that everybody has to be some hive mind, right? Incognito says Aquino was MK Ultra. LaVey was fed and involved. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. LaVey, he was a carny kind of guy. And I've got his Bible here, not because I was a Satanist, because I interviewed somebody and I want to know. And it's all me, total narcissism. Like teaching people to just, yes, you have to take care of the self, but they told, like, basically to worship the self as supreme and forget about connectivity, forget about community, forget about everything else. We've got imantized the Eschaton. And Eric Vogel talked about this in the 60s, yep. And good Gnosis, but this would be evil Gnosticism. Dark MAGA. It's weird, and you can kind of even just take MAGA and see how it went from something good, that somebody thought, I want Americans to have a good, healthy country, to infiltrate it into something like, we're going to take those people and steer them into the Dark Enlightenment, and they're not even going to know it because they're just along for the ride. And what starts out as wanting to serve people in the country better and have better economy ends up into a cult following, and it can show you how you can end up in there so quickly from trauma, psyops. You're creating this idea that everyone's out to get Trump and he's there to protect you, and they create all these dynamics that lead you into a place where but you get there and you don't want to let go because you're surrounded by it. It's what you know. Maybe these people in MAGA think, they say they wanted no wars. They say all this stuff, but I think it has to do with power. I think once they feel like they had the power, they're going to go with it. Watico's in their brain, and now it's not about working hard. They've totally been manipulated. Their minds they don't even know it. They've been manipulated into wanting power, to conquer, to take over, and they're pushing this dark enlightenment, and they don't even really know who's behind it. They think Trump's not behind it. Trump's a puppet for sure. So is Obama. So are definitely Biden. I mean, he couldn't even go visit a foreign, state representative while pooping his depends. Okay. So we're going to get into some of the figures. Trump was playing the Pied Piper. Very good analogy. I like it. He was the Pied Piper. That's right. He's the Pied Piper. So, Technocrat Utopia is the destruction of humanness. It's the destruction of the order of the universe, which you can kind of laugh. And I think that's why religious people go, oh, God wins in the end, because we're a little planet. Like, how can what they can do, this virus is an illusion, right? It thinks it's going to destroy the universe. What it can do is make life miserable for humans. I don't know that it can destroy the universe unless they're trying. Like, I don't know what they're doing with the Hadron Collider and all these rituals that they do. I know that they think that they can do this, what do they call it? The Saturn worship, that they use that sort of dark cube hexagon-y thing as like a ritual point where they bring dark entities in. So do they just, will it and keep infiltrating it? And there's this idea that these people who are infested in power positions with this are rewarded for their service, right? They're rewarded with lots of money, rocket ships. I mean, I believe Elon Musk's goal is to just, make a new NASA, satanic NASA. It's so the opposite of being humble and being connected and loving your neighbor and everything that they say. And Elon Musk, that crazy POS, is out there now saying he's Christian now and he believes in Jesus. He doesn't, this is him luring the MAGA people down the pathway to the Dark Enlightenment. He's going to lead them to the Antichrist that they say they are trying to get rid of. It's self-fulfilling prophecy. If you want to get rid of the Antichrist, just stop reading the Bible and talking about it. These books are written as a template to show you what to believe so that they can control you and steer you down that path. And remember, all of this is a trap because you can't connect to the spirits through a digital Ouija board. It's all code. It's going to tell you. It's set in stone. It's like a caste system. You don't get to move. You don't get to flex. You don't get to have freedom. It's set in stone system. So we're going to talk about a certain figure called Mr.
So I begin.
Mr. Curtis Yarving. Do I have another video? No. We got to go to the internet for this one to look at Mr. Curtis Yarvin. Who is he? First, we'll do the Google version. Road Trip says, NASA's questionably satanic, in my opinion. Yes, it certainly seemed to start off with some very strange rituals. I mean, we could go Aleister Crowley. Even Aleister Crowley thought they were crazy at the end with their Moonchild stuff, the Jack Parsons. Even Aleister Crowley was like, these guys are whack, too whack for me. But Aleister Crowley, again, he wanted an inversion of everything that was good. He wanted to explore, and that's this sort of Kabbalah stuff where they say to know good, you have to do horribly bad. And I understand that, you have to have that contrast, and maybe they're giving us the ultimate contrast, but I think it's much more complicated than that, because they believe like you have to do the most horrible thing, like hurt children. And I don't know, I think this is a test for us. Can you navigate through this thick of crazy and still maintain your humanness and humanity and care for other human beings? Like, can you do it? Or are you trapped? Are you hateful? Do you want Iranians to be murdered? You know, do you want all this war? Because Trump was supposed to be the anti-war guy, but none of these people up there. It's a vibration. Once you get up there, you lose your ability to be human and connect with people, because these people live in a total different world than us. They live in a dark enlightenment bubble, a very corrupt bubble. So anyways, Curtis Yarvin, I don't know if you guys heard of him. He, like I said, Mencius Moldbug. He's key to the Dark Enlightenment. He is pushing his tenements of anti-democracy and a kind of tech monarchy. He advocates for neo-cameralism, a state run as a for-profit corporation governed by sovereign efficiency. He wants a CEO monarch. Typical. He pushes this thing called the cathedral, which is an infiltration of spirituality right there. He's popularized this term called the cathedral. I'll actually pull up an article about it to describe what he calls an informal, self-organized network of universities, media, and civil services that he believes propagate progressive liberal dogmas and control public discourses. He probably wants to rearrange that. Patchwork. He envisions global patchwork of tiny, independent, competitive, authoritarian city-states. This is so creepy. He wants to retire all government employees, which is called rage. That's what Doge was about. Remember they were trying to convince us to get rid of public servants. It's a central radical proposal of his is to reboot the US government by dissolving the administrative state and replacing it with more efficient top-down structure, probably AI. Reactionary values. The movement rejects Enlightenment ideas like equality. It favors traditional hierarchies like a caste system, scientific racism, human biodiversity, and the idea that some races are more suited to slavery than others, which would mean us at the bottom, and just crazy stuff. His influence, he has influenced Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance, Trump administration. Observers have noted that Yarvin's neo-monarchist ideas have found an audience in the second Trump administration. He was involved in the Doge. Let's go look at another article where he talks about, he actually have one that he wrote. I have one that people have written on him. He's funded by Peter Thiel. He's funded by Andreessen Horowitz. These guys are all these elite figures raised. They weren't raised in poverty. They were raised by well-to-do families. In Musk, I suspect, was a fascist family. I know Thiel was raised by old Nazi fascists in South Africa. I think a lot of them, but just look at their freaking haircuts. It's like their haircuts in and of themselves were saying, hey, we're hailing back to 1930s in Germany. Let's see. Anna, let's look at this one. Incognito says that's Sabbatian Frankism. This is what you'll hear Candace talk about. Sabbatian Frankism, the Dark Enlightenment. This is why I said they want to bring this Dark Enlightenment, no hide laws. If you don't do it, you're kicked out of the system or you're literally tortured. Okay, so anti-democratic Dark Enlightenment ideas have spread from Silicon Valley. So it's got a home in Silicon Valley. It says, in an era of polarized politics and rapid technological change, a little-known far-right philosophical movement, Dark Enlightenment, has quietly gained influence among certain circles. In the United States, the loose collection of ideas that comprise Dark Enlightenment thinking emerged in the late 2000s, right? We kind of went over that. American software engineer Curtis Yarvin and British philosopher Nick Land have written numerous essays that reject core Enlightenment principles such as democracy, egalitarianism, I can't speak. Egalitarianism. I can't say that word today. I'm so tired. And universal liberty. In place of Enlightenment institutions that we've had for a long time, Dark Enlightenment thinkers want the hierarchical authoritarian systems, very fascist, okay? They want hybrid CEO monarchs, like he says this, for-profit sovereign corporations. Beyond democracy, Dark Enlightenment thinkers are highly critical of other modern institutions such as the media, civil service, and academia, which is why they had us attack woke. So the left plays out the woke stuff and puts it and infiltrates crazy stuff in the universities. And they go, look, now we have to get rid of these universities. That's what Jordan Peterson is saying. He's putting on Dark Enlightenment. He's opening up his creepy university. They want to collapse the universities so they can have their weird system. Beyond democracy, Dark Enlightenment thinkers are highly critical. It says Dark Enlightenment's relevance lies in its growing influence among certain U.S. segments. Peter Thiel, of course. In recent years, the popularity of philosophy has spread to J.D. Vance. That's why Peter Thiel got him in. My guess is they'll get rid of Trump, try to get J.D. Vance in, but I'm sure they have people that they're influencing on the left as well. They wouldn't leave that. Steve Bannon is a fan of Yarvin and Nick Land. Elon Musk has echoed in Dark Enlightenment, is now using the Department of Efficiency to push this. Let's see. In December 2024, David Sachs, a technology entrepreneur and a longtime Thielverse member, was appointed the Trump's administration AI and cryptocurrency czar. Mr. Sachs has not explicitly endorsed Dark Enlightenment thinking. He expresses skepticisms of government institutions. So he's on with this. They love the idea of crypto, controlling all the money, controlling how you spend, because you're the plebs of shit. The Dark Enlightenment inspired war on U.S. administrative state, dismantling crucial government agencies, the CDC. Well, you can see how some of these played into this. To be like, I think what happens is all these systems become corrupt, and this allows these really radical people to play in, just the same way when Iran became corrupt under that Shah, that it allowed for that Ayatollah to come in with an even more kind of radical system. So when you have corruption and it grows big and the system gets too big and no one knows where the money goes, it allows these guys a means to get in, and they're very radical, and then they just undo the whole system. Currently, the Dark Enlightenment's influence politics and society is constrained by its esoteric nature and controversial stands. It remains a fringe set of ideas, but it's not. For Canadians, the takeaway should not be alarm, but awareness. This fringe philosophy, unlikely to dominate, could sharply shape U.S. policies and markets. Yeah, I think they try to collapse the markets. That's my guess. I don't know what you guys think, but that's my guess. Let's see if we can find some. This is actually an article written by Yarvin. The Cathedral or the Bazaar by Curtis Yarsman. America's experiments with democracy and oligarchy have failed, leaving only one option. Now, whenever you hear somebody say something like that, he wrote this in 2022. He's clearly planning. It leaves the option, his option. He puts Raymond, a stereotypical program libertarian, saw two architectural archetype features software development organizations, the Cathedral, a closed corporate centralized project plan for profit, and the Bazaar, an open volunteer centralist organic community of patches crafted from love. Yeah, I'm not going to read this all. It's kind of crazy. I think what we should do is actually see if we can find a clip of Curtis Yarvin, because I want you guys to get a sense of him. He, deeply, let's see if we can find, oh, this is a good one. How long is it? We'll just listen to a few minutes. It's long, but we'll just listen to a little bit. I just want you to get a sense of this guy.
I tried everything. Coffee, Pomodoro,
There we go.
and stuck until I tried this.
For years, Curtis Yarvin had been writing online about political theory and relative obscurity. His ideas were pretty extreme, that institutions at the heart of American intellectual life, like the mainstream media and academia, need to be dissolved. He also believes that government bureaucracy should be radically gutted, and that American democracy should be replaced by what he calls a monarchy run by a CEO.
Monarch is good, it's a neutral term.
But while Yarvin himself may still be obscure, his ideas are not. Vice President...
Okay. Does he sound smart? Do you think monarchy is a neutral term? It is not a neutral term. There's nothing neutral about the word monarchy. That this guy right off the bat is a retard. These guys are in a bubble. And this is why I hope this fails. And this is why we got to get into the dust and get away from a lot of this technology. We can use it, obviously, for good, but to get away from this stuff and get away from the mind virus, the Watika. Get away from this Dark Enlightenment, because these people are stupid and they're depending on even more stupid religious people to fall for this in MAGA and whatever else. They're depending on hate. We attack each other. They're pushing this in, and I hope ultimately it fails. But
like J.D. Vance, has alluded to his notions of forcibly ridding American institutions of so-called wokeism. And Yarvin has also found fans.
And I just want to repeat, I don't think wokeism's good, because I don't think it's the solution. I think a lot of them point out a lot of good problems, but it's not the solution. And I think they put in wokeism, the left did, so that the right could usher this in. I think they work in tandem. And there's people above them that are constructing this wokeism versus this narrative, all for Watiko, so they can, push us to this point where it's a massive control system. I don't think that they're just two sides of the same coin, essentially. And they look different, but they work in tandem to bring this about. Let's just put it
in the
that
most
way.
Powerful and increasingly political ranks of Silicon Valley, like Mark Andreessen, the venture capitalist turned informal advisor to President-elect Trump.
We are living under FDR's personal monarchy.
Peter Thiel, a Republican megadonor.
Okay. I think FDR was way smarter than these guys and a lot more humble. He didn't get caught up in labels. Really, he was a guy that didn't get caught up in these same labels that these guys are caught in. So there's Peter Thiel.
Has called him a powerful historian. On top of it all, Yarvin has become a fixture of the right-wing podcast.
I mean, look at that. There he is on... Yeah, Road Trip says he looks like an 80s poser dopehead. He does. And there he is on Tucker Carlson's show. I wonder what Tucker Carlson... Because Tucker Carlson keeps saying he's against war, but yet he's had this guy on. I wonder if he was critical. I'd have to go watch that interview, because a lot of people has featured him who are now saying they're against all this stuff. So it's interesting. It's interesting.
Podcast universe. He's been a guest on the shows of Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk, among others.
Thank you for that lovely intro, Tucker.
I've been aware of Yarvin for years, but always thought of his work as pretty fringe. A lot of what Yarvin has to say is disturbing, and the historical evidence he justifies it with is riddled with exaggeration, distortion, and sometimes just plain inaccuracy. But given that his ideas are now finding an audience with some of the most powerful people in the country,
and I think they're not just finding an audience with the powerful people. The powerful people always knew this, and he's finding an audience. But I think, like I said, I don't think it's just that they're being duped by this guy. I think they believe this stuff already, and I think he probably has a long history with them. The Muse says, Peter Thiel, the reptile. Yeah, when the guy, when he asks if he wants humanity to continue, can't answer it because he's Dark Enlightenment. He doesn't. He wants to unravel it all into some kind of creepy psychopath utopia. Watiko.
Yarvin can't be so easily dismissed anymore.
When you say to a New York Times reader, democracy is bad, they're a little bit shocked. But when you say to them, politics is bad, or even populism is bad, they're like, of course, these are horrible things.
I'm David Marchese.
Let's pause that there, because he's word salading you. It's not that politics are bad. it's that corruption in politics is bad. The Watiko is bad. The bad things, the not being honest, the not, administrating the tax dollars to things that help the people. That is bad. Democracy in of itself may not work, but the answer is not a CEO monarch. You see, they isolate some problems, but their answer is psychotic. Their solution, it's the same with Marx. Their solution is never going to work. It's going to be it's like all these other philosophers that ever come before. The solution is to be connected with your fellow people and to respect other people and be honest and get Watiko out of your fucking brain. These guys never have a solution because they're raised in wealthy families, spoiled brats, and they have a disdain for people who are working class. They have a disdain and disgust for people. And that means to me that they have a disdain for themselves. There's something about that within themselves that they hate. His name rearranged is actually Reptile. Yeah, it's the Reptile. I actually saw that, and I've seen people say they've seen these people turn into reptilians. I can't concur. I've never seen it, but I've heard it. I've heard people say they saw Jeffrey Epstein turn into a reptile.
And here's my conversation with writer Curtis Yarvin.
Know someplace else?
Mm-hmm. That's a weird commercial.
To my understanding, one of your central arguments is that, America needs to, I think the way you've put it in the past is sort of get over our dictator phobia, American democracy.
Okay. Have we seen dictators in the past? Have we seen dictators in the past? Do you think there might be a reason we don't like dictators? We don't have a phobia of them. We just know they're not good. And do you see how he rephrases everything? They use these terms. He's like, well, you've got dictator phobia. It's like, no, I just have a functioning brain, asshole.
Democracy is a sham, beyond fixing, and having sort of a monarch-style leader, or call it a CEO, or call it a dictator, like that's the way to go. So why is democracy so bad? And why would having a dictator solve the problem?
Let me answer that in, I think, a way that will be relatively accessible to readers of the New York Times. You've probably heard of a man named Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yes.
I do a speech sometimes where I'll just read the last 10 paragraphs of FDR's first inaugural address, in which FDR essentially says to the American people, hey, Congress, give me absolute power or I'll take it anyway. So, did FDR actually take that level of power?
Did FDR actually say that? And is that what he meant? That's what I want to know. If anyone can weigh in on that, because I'm not sure what speech he's talking about, but I have a feeling that he's reframing it to manipulate. Because he strikes me as a manipulative cunt. Excuse my words, but he's making me mad. Muse says, I've seen someone with that demon face things last year. He looked normal most of the time, but once when I looked at him, his face was all different. That's creepy. Altruistic people have not been found yet. Not in politics, that's for sure. That's because there's a vibration up there. And once you get there, it controls you. They control you. So let's see what this guy says, because I have a feeling he's reframing or rephrasing. But if you know what he's talking about, put it in the comments. He's saying FDR basically said, give me absolute power. Let me be a dictator. Did he say that? Did he mean that? Is that what he did? Let's see.
Yeah, he did. And so there's a great piece that I've sent to, some of the people that I know that are involved.
And even if he did do that, that doesn't mean it's right. And that doesn't mean it's okay. Right? His solution is, well, FDR did it. I could do it better. That's like, hey, look, we know how to do communism better. Hey, we know how to do fascism better. Everything's rigid. Everything's control. It's not an organic system. It's not a community-oriented system. It's not a system where people love you and actually care about you and want your well-being. and want to see you healthy. It's a system where they want to use you for their own means. Dark Enlightenment, merge you into one and erase your identity. That's the dissociative stuff. That's the psyop. They want to pull you from reality into this fear hell zone, right? That's the whole point. And real leaders and kings don't do that. They actually care about their people.
In the transition,
which
is, there's all sorts of people milling around.
Name one.
There. Name one. Wow. Name one.
Okay, name one. Wow. Look, he can't. He's not that smart. He can't name one. He's hoping to baffle with his bullshit. Oh wow. Look at wow, look at my leather jacket. Wow, I'm a douchebag.
Oh, I definitely know Mark Andreessen, and so I sent this piece to Mark Andreessen. And
he uses Mark Andreessen. Mark Andreessen is his supporter, is who funds him. Can we have an example of somebody outside of your fucking circle of crazy people, please? Can we?
And it's an excerpt from the diary of Harold Ickes, who is FDR's Secretary of the Interior. And it's a little diary entry describing a cabinet meeting in 1933. And what happens in this cabinet meeting is that Francis Perkins, who's the Secretary of Labor, comes in to this meeting and is like, here, I have a list of the projects that we're going to do. FDR personally takes this list, looks at the projects in New York, and is like, this is crap, and aren't you doing? Like, humiliates Francis Perkins in the Oval Office or wherever they're having their cabinet meeting. And then at the end of the thing, it's like everybody agrees that the bill would be fixed and then passed through Congress. This is just a picture of FDR acting like a CEO. And so, the question of, was FDR a dictator? What does it mean to be a dictator? What does this pejorative word mean? I don't know. What I know is that Americans of all stripes,
Okay, so he uses FDR as an example of dictator, but then he goes and says, does that mean he is? I don't know. Because then why is he using him as an example? This guy is just full of shit, hot air. It's like when you see Elon Musk talk, he can't talk. You see him interview, he's like, absolute control. Where's my mescaline? I gotta get somebody to help me play my video game so I can be number one. It's all fake. These people are so full of themselves. Okay, I don't know how much more I want to. We'll watch a little bit more. I don't know how much more I want to watch of him. I'm just getting a sense of his flaky ass. And you can tell that he's nepotism, that he's spoiled, that he's never had to really face any real challenges in life that most people have to face. And that's what makes him bad. It's not that he doesn't have a clue. And same with Trump. That's what makes them so bad, is they don't actually really know how to face challenges because they've never had them. And they've never had to look at things from multiple people's point of view. They're always manipulating people and manipulating their emotions. They don't care about them.
Democrats, Republicans, and everyone, except for a few right-wing Republicans, basically revere FDR. And FDR ran the New Deal like a startup.
So, as I understand it, the point you're trying to make is that we have had something like a dictator in the past in American history, and therefore it's not something to be afraid of now. Is that?
One of the great challenges in this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right, but not
enough like me.
What we see in the sort of the course of, to kind of look at the objective reality of power in the U.S. since the revolution. You'll talk to people about.
Okay, so the Muse says, is this FDR? Says, I shall ask the Congress for one remaining instrument to meet the crisis. Broad executive power to wage a war against the emergency, as great as the power that would be given to me if we were, in fact, invaded by a foreign foe. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous. But the fact that he said it, and it's weird. Like, he said it, and he's saying that, like, hey, FDR did it. Why would you think that that's the answer? Considering that all of these wars and these foreign foes we know are psyops, they're all being funded by the same people on top. And these guys are just actors. This guy's just a punk ass actor. And everybody's, I don't know, like, are these tech people retarded? Like, I don't see anything inspiring. The same with half the religious people. What's inspiring about them? Not much, not much. A few more seconds. Let's get up ahead here. See if we can. I don't want to watch this whole thing. Let's get to this part here. Way ahead.
Curtis back to ask more about the incoming administration. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me again. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It was fun. Let's have some more fun.
You do so often draw on the history of the pre-democratic era, which is a historical period sort of exactly coterminous with, for example, women being treated as second-class citizens. And the status of women in that time period, which you valorize, is not something I've really seen come up in your writings. Do you feel like your arguments...
Is it just me, or does he have a dopey look? Like, the guy who's interviewing him comes across as having some kind of intelligence and questioning, but Curtis Yarving just looks like a dope. He doesn't actually look smart. He looks like a nepo baby who's just clinging on to some bullshit bibble babble to be famous, and he's connected in with all these techno bitches, probably because of the family that he came from. And his family, by the way, were Democrats and very liberal, which is ironic that he wants to be the fascist.
Take enough into account the way that sort of monarchies and dictatorships historically tend not to be great for big swaths of demographics?
So, okay, so let's look at, enfranchisement in specific.
Okay, like, I'm totally like Gen X, like the most annoying Gen Xer on the planet. So Road Trip doesn't think FDR was a good president. Some people think he's good. I'm sure he did some good things, but there's some things, of course, that we would really disagree with him about. But the point is that war usually happens to bring about something. Even in those times, it's about bringing about changes. And bringing about changes that are not necessarily good for the people. It's about steering people more and more into a central power system. And I don't think it really, by the time FDR is coming around, I mean, it's already, happening. We've already got, what was the gold standard? Like, they bought everybody's gold. Like, this stuff was already well on its way. This kind of global concept. You said he looked like a dopehead. He does look like a dopehead, Road Trip. You're totally right. He looks like a dopehead. He's dopey. He looks like he's been out partying all night, and he's just kind of rolled out of bed, throw a t-shirt on, and is like, oh my God, I'm old and Gen X, and I'm just going to do this interview and wing it. And I don't know, maybe he was partying with Alex Karp or something like that and tweaking out the night before. I don't know. He just looks dopey.
Look at the status of women in, say, a Jane Austen novel, which is well before enfranchisement. It actually seems kind of okay. The women in Jane Austen's book seems to be fine.
Who are desperate to land a husband because they have no access to income without them.
Well, have you ever seen anything like that in the 21st century? I mean, the whole class in Jane Austen's world is the class of, like, UBI earning a...
I have a feeling these guys also want to take the vote away from women. I have a feeling that is something that I've heard them say it before. It wouldn't surprise me. Or that voting doesn't even matter. That it's just we're all going to be attached to an AI, and soon it just won't even matter. I don't know where this is going. This guy's kind of boring. Is it me, or is he boring? He's just dull.
Aristocrats, right?
But are you not willing to say that there were aspects of political life in the era of kings that were inferior or provided less liberty for people than political life does today?
It's very hard. So first of all, when we say liberty, for example, so you did a thing that people often do where they confuse freedom with power. Free speech is a freedom. The right to vote is a form of power. And so the assumption that you're making is that through getting the vote in the early 20th century in England and America, women made life better for themselves.
Do you think it's better that women got the vote?
First of all, I don't believe in actually voting at all.
Do you vote?
No.
Well, he doesn't vote. What's interesting is voting doesn't matter because they're both sides are on one side. So this is kind of convoluted. Like they're all playing together. So in this system, and the vote gets manipulated. People do psyops. They get emotionally manipulated to vote certain ways. There's all these things that they do, Watika, whatever you want to say, to get people to vote. Tricks, lies, deception. So, woo, Eric Merrick. Shout out to the vampires. Yeah, the techno vampires. Techno vampire bitches. So he doesn't believe in voting because he thinks that it should just be a CEO. Should the CEO's children take over? Should Donald Trump's children get to take over? Like, I think that might be where he's going.
I believe that voting is providing this sort of almost kind of pornographic stimulus. It sort of becomes more like supporting your football team or something. It basically enables you to feel.
Well, that's because politics have been turned into entertainment to manipulate the vote. Because so your vote, you're not voting on serious issues. The candidates do one-liners that no one's serious. Half of them are stupid, and so he's identifying issues that are problems, right? He's identifying problem issues, which I agree. But his solution is basically a monarch CEO. Like, because he's saying the government is like a monarch anyways. So I don't know. We're gonna stop watching this. We're gonna pop over here. I'll see if I can find some more clips and videos, but that is him in a nutshell. I don't want to spend too much more time looking at him. It just irritates me. But you can see patterns. Like this stuff was happening in Germany, when Hitler took over, where you had people dissatisfied, people struggling, people not being able to afford things, sky high prices, having to pay reparations, wheelbarrows of money for a loaf of bread. And so they offered, Hitler offered a lot of things. The difference is Hitler actually delivered on some of the things to his people. We ain't getting any deliveries. We're getting more war. We're getting more debt. We're doing things on behalf of another nation that's control. Like I don't even think we control our government. I think another nation and lots of money. So the class that he's from, they have all the money. They have all the power. Money is power these days. The vote's not even mattering anymore because they just funnel lots of money into it. So his solution is to make some rich person with lots of money just take over and control things. They're doing that already. I think what they just want to do is end the bullshit voting and having to put their money into it and just give them control. Just end it all and give them control. I think that's what he's getting at. They control everything anyways. They got all the money. So just give them all the power. Just give one guy the power. Because then they can stop the charade that we actually have some kind of freedom system. And that's how I'm summing him up right now. That's the Dark Enlightenment right there. And they'll put us in all these little creepy cities, like freedom cities, 15-minute cities that compete with each other. Like none of it makes sense. It sounds like a Gen X fantasy. They must have based it on a movie. They must have based this stuff on a science fiction movie. It's the only thing I can think of with these guys. Every time I hear these guys talk, it's Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Star Trek, some science fiction book has influenced them and their ideologies. And it's like, these books are written and they show you the bad guys. You're not supposed to go, oh, therefore I should use those bad guys as a solution. They're teaching you, it's like they're so psychotic. They miss the lesson and they miss the Watiko. This guy is just full of bad vibes. He's got Watiko. He's got dopey Watiko. Hunger Games. Yeah, Hunger Games. I never even watched it. But Hunger Games. Absolute Hunger Games. So we're going to end that one. But yeah, just whew. Let's put on some music in the background because we're going to tie this up in a bit because I'm so tired today. It's just absolutely crazy. 2 hours of sleep. I'm so sorry. Let's do some atmospheric music in the background because we are going to talk about this. What is the real solution? Like, what do the spiritual people say is the real solution to this kind of enlightenment that pushes us towards a singularity point of basically a monarch CEO tapped into a hive mind, a neural link where everything monitors us, trying to replicate the organic system, but is not the organic system, because the organic system is point, in my opinion, is to allow for growth. It's for allow for you to be human. It's for allow to you to make mistakes and learn from them and connect with people and be human. This system does not like human. This man does not like humanness. Incognito says, we are paying for their AI that they're building to enslave us. Eric says, crazy that they did it all with AI in Iran. What you mean? That the stuff with Iran, there's so much propaganda, I wouldn't believe it all. But Trump's definitely lying about a lot of stuff. I've watched him. I've watched MAGA people like, yeah, we're winning, more winning, and they don't realize that nobody's winning. When we attack and we destroy each other on behalf of these Watiko infested crazy people. Oh, Steve Wills from England, UFO guy. Hi, Steve. Should get Steve on my show one time. We're not winning. We don't win when we destroy each other. We're connected. We're connected to that plasma. It connects all of us like the Force in Star Wars. I'm not trying, when I look at Star Wars, I'm not like, hey, this Watiko is bad, that this plasma connects us, so let's destroy the plasma. Let's undo all of the universe and be like the Emperor Darth Vader. No, I look at this and say, hey, let's learn what Watiko is and how to identify it in ourselves and how to get out of it and stop looking at the shadows on the cave wall and look at reality. Stop dissociating. Stop being fed along with the dangling carrot by these tech bros. So we're going to have to do a new scene here where I do media, and we're going to have to look at some solutions, some Watiko solutions and some spiritual stuff, and definitely look at that book on plasma by Robert Temple. But do we have a YouTube? We'll go from this screen and we will go home, go playlists. This is where I put all my goodies. My system only allows me to have so many videos uploaded, so we have to do it this way.
Whoa, what's that? I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys, Nina just built an app. Impossible. Nina can't code.
So let's pause this one. We're going to turn the music down in the system so you can hear it clearly. Let's go for plasma may be a form of consciousness. and then we'll do break free from Watiko. So let's talk about plasma.
Interesting scientist, Dr. Salvatore Pais, who is known for these patents that came out via the US Navy that are like UFO patents, you know, hybrid aerospace underwater vehicles and, you know, fusion reactors. And he is strongly of the belief that plasma has the ability to obtain consciousness, that it's not objectively conscious, but this self-organizing property, whether it occurs in the vacuum of space or it occurs in a lab inside of a vacuum chamber, can gain consciousness and shows sign. Yeah, and so, like, you know, when you get into these incredibly energetic emotional states and you have weird plasmic orb things floating down, yeah, maybe it's not intelligent aliens. Maybe you're just interacting with another element of the animal kingdom that you didn't know about.
Could be former humans.
Could be former humans. Like, the door is open for so many explanations.
Okay, so they're talking about plasma and how you can interact with it and what it might be. And when you look at Robert Temple, he talks about in the book that the plasma is around our planet and it's intelligent and it's probably observing us. Almost, some people think it's like an Akashic record, but it's not an authoritarian database meant to monitor us and restructure our behavior in this rigid way. You can go through it, you can view it, you can, maybe when you part this earth, you separate from it, but you don't lose your humanness. It's not there to destroy the essence of who you are. So now let's look at how to defeat the self-sabotage. We're going to do Overcoming Watiko and the beginning of how to defeat the self-sabotage and mind virus. It's 2 hours long, so we're going to only listen to a couple of minutes and we'll wrap this up, because I think getting out of the Watiko, getting out of the system and not looking at the shadows on the wall is, and realizing our humanness and accepting our humanness and not hating our humanness. We've been taught to hate ourselves as humans, whether it's plastic surgery or always getting better or not liking something or not liking each other. And I think it's more about accepting the humanness of us as actually constructive things. It can come with negativities, but it's not a bad thing where now we must merge into this system of trying to undo everything that's human. So let's go and Overcoming Watiko.
Work with me. Work with me. Work with me. Work with me. Watiko. Watiko is a consciousness parasite. Just when you think you have it all figured out, just when you think you've grown to a new level, it lulls you back to sleep. It hypnotizes you with the world around you, with the Maya, with all of the unimportant BS of life. It sucks you back in, and it makes you think, oh, that's other. I should be afraid of that. That's not me. That's separate. That's over there. That problem is not mine. Hey, stop it. Not mine. Like this one. You are me. I know.
Websites. Listen, it's called Connect Team.
He's isolating the problem. Eric said, I donated plasma in college. What are they doing with it? It's not it's not blood plasma. It's something totally different. It's called dusty plasma, and it's what the sun is made of. It's all throughout the universe. It's probably in our bodies. It's not the blood plasma. The very different things we're talking about. So we'll get to that part. Let's see what they say of how to defeat self-sabotage and mind virus Watiko.
And it's insane. I don't do schedules or timesheets manually anymore. And it works?
Oh my
Watiko, or whatever name you call it, it's at the bottom of the madness and the evil that's playing out collectively in our world.
This is a well that goes all the way to the depths of hell.
In the Bible or in the apocryphal texts, they talk about Watiko, but interestingly, it got edited out of the Bible. They talk about the counterfeiting spirit, right? And that's Watiko. It has no power to steal our soul, but it tricks us. And then we forget our creative agency. That's a recipe for madness. Fear is superfood for Watiko. Wetiko is a collective psychosis. It's the diagnosis for what our species is suffering from. In psychology, they call autonomous complexes, like these split-off parts of the psyche that develop a seeming life or will of its own. That's Wetiko. Indigenous people call that a demon. The thing about a mind virus, what it essentially means is that the origin of our collective madness is to be found within the psyche. And where else could it be found?
I call it the anti-you. This battle between anti-you and your
Anti-you, anti-Christ, it's the opposite of your humanness, and it wants to undo all that is good about you and the world.
potential.
We need to shed light on that anti-you force. It's the source of the greatest evil and simultaneously hidden, encoded holographically in the mind virus. It's the greatest force of evolution that's ever been known. Is it going to take us down or is it going to wake us up? It depends on us.
Paul, we're here
Okay.
to talk about the devil by another name.
Wetiko.
And to speak about that other name, this is how I'd like to get into this.
I don't refer to it as like a devil. I really think of it really as a mind, like the mind virus, the force. And you know, in a lot of movies, like they'll show the devil as whispering on your shoulder, that kind of thing. Gabrielle, light traveler, thank you for coming by. Wave, wave, plasma, ball, lightning, plasma. They say there could be plasma drone type figures that's made from this substance that it forms an intelligence, and it can actually absorb what we're doing and monitor us. I want to get ahead because we call it the devil, but let's go to a chapters. Oh, collective madness, awakening in the dream, and the quantum psychosis. So let's listen to the collective madness, and then we'll go to critical mass and global awakening for a solution, and then we'll tie the show up. Here we go.
Yeah. You have a really cool part of this book, on Dreaming with Tico, where you actually talk about polarization of sunglasses and how it actually spins the light in a certain way so that it only allows things to filter through.
Right.
And I, you can certainly see this happening in the collective where there's different sets of polarizing glasses, which are all some form of psychic blindness because it's only letting in a certain amount of the light that comes through. So if you could explain that a little bit to help people understand how we're filtering information into our psyche to create this kind of confirmation bias phenomenon.
Yeah. And it's a way of really understanding, how we are just participating in casting a spell on ourselves because there's no one else doing that. We're doing it to ourselves, you know? And so if I hold a viewpoint and say, for example, if I hold a viewpoint about what's happening in the world that the powers that be want me to hold, right? I mean, just that, the thing which is mind-blowing to me, I will mention that to people who I feel have ingested the propaganda and are under the spell. And I go, isn't it interesting that you're holding a point of view that the powers that be, that are like sort of like the darker powers, want you to hold? And they're like not even interested about it. They're not even curious about, gee, I wonder if I should look at that. And so when we, take in, it's like we've outsourced our own sense making and meaning making and authority.
That's what the Dark Enlightenment, Wetiko, they want to do. That's you dissociate from your own thoughts and you allow the system's thoughts to be yours. That is literally a step to the hive mind. We're kind of already in a hive mind. They just want to kind of make it so you can't escape. That's my theory.
And whether it's the mainstream media or whoever, and we just...
This is why I always tell people don't wear logos. Logos is a brand. They're branding you like a cow. We can discuss that on a future. Don't go to their mass events because you're going to be pulled into their cave. You won't be able to resist the massive crowds, and don't give them your money and your energy because you're participating in their mass psychosis and that dissociating from your own mind. I think it's why introverts don't like to be around a lot of people because it dissociates them from themselves and their own thoughts, and they can feel themselves getting trapped up in the chaos of whatever that event is trying to make you think.
Take in what somebody else is telling us is true. And then as soon as we see the world that way, being like a dream, then we will attract all the evidence confirming that viewpoint as being objectively true. And the more then we install that viewpoint online in our mind as being objectively true, in a feedback loop, the more evidence we will attract confirming that.
That's essentially like the algorithm. Like if we keep looking at the stuff that they want us to, we just keep attracting more of that with like an algorithm. That happens in life too. You just keep attracting it. It's why you have to pull yourself away and be like, what actually do I want? Like what do I want these beliefs? Is this what I really believe? Okay. So we're going to go over to the end, which is critical mass, global awakening, collective myths. The Wounded Healer. I'm going to give you guys the link to this right now. So it's like 2 hours long. We can't possibly watch it, but we'll go to the end and I'll give you the link if you guys want to watch this interview yourself.
Could you use up to $800? Find
commercials.
it at BioLife. Is waiting for you. Just
one of the concepts.
Ironically, BioLife is blood donation clinic and plasma clinic. I'm going to give you guys the link to that one. And we'll listen to the rest.
That I think you illuminate in your book as well is that, Wetiko evokes Wetiko. It is actually contagious.
Oh, completely.
Yeah. So if I'm encountering somebody in their kind of in their overrun by Wetiko, it's this contagious field, and it will evoke my own Wetiko.
That's why I had to leave X. And those X groups, the MAGA groups on X, because I'm like, these guys are crazy. They're just like, we're like, they call it an echo chamber, but it's like everyone Wetiko in like crazy. And I'm like, this is not what I believe. Some of these things these are saying, these guys are crazy. They're being led astray. They're being led down a really dark path, and they can't even see it. That Trump did this switch, and then it kind of went dark MAGA.
And my own reactiveness and my own response. And it's remarkable to me, however much attention and awareness I've cultivated, that it still happens.
Yeah.
It's like I'll feel that coming in from my partner or from someone close to me, and I'll be like, somehow it'll evoke that thing. And it's that idea of the Shempa, the hook.
Yeah. The being triggered. Exactly.
Being triggered.
Shempa. Yeah. Totally. I'm so glad you're bringing that up, because one way of understanding that, when you see the unconscious, right, it's impossible to see the unconscious without your unconscious being activated. It's non-local, right? And so think about it. You see somebody else is possessed by Wetiko in that moment, right? And they're playing it out. It's going to activate your Wetiko. And then you're at a choice point. Mm-hmm. Like, are you just going to become possessed by the Wetiko that's gotten triggered in you and then act it out, which just like continues the infinite reinforcing feedback loop cycle? Or are you going to be aware, oh, wow, that guy is playing out this Wetiko. Now I feel it. Oh, what an opportunity for me, instead of putting my attention out there, to turn it on myself and to reflect upon what in me is being triggered. That's an incredible opportunity.
That's why I was saying, like, I didn't want to watch him anymore, because I knew, like, he was triggering something in me, the Yarvin guy, but their hatred for humanness is something in them. It's their Wetiko, that they're angry about humanness. They want this perfection, this creepy utopia that undoes all of humanity, and only some demonic force would do that, really.
And so, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because particularly when you have like some sort of group, like a collectivity, if say if somebody is really the one who's the leader of the group, if they're possessed by Wetiko and it resonates with other people, whether it's 10 people or 1 million, and they all start to reinforce each other's point of view, that's a collective psychosis. And then any reflection upon what they're doing, it just gets rejected or integrated in a way to support their psychosis.
Right.
Very true. It gets rejected, or you get smear campaigned, or a witch hunt, et cetera, or they adapt it, infiltrate it, and turn it into what they want it to be for the psychosis. So it's a hard thing to escape. And it's like trying to bite your own teeth, really. it's complicated. So let's listen to this for a little bit longer.
And that's really sort of evidence of what you're pointing out about the contagiousness of Watiko. But then the other part of it is that people who are awakening and who are cultivating compassion, they become in a way like antipsychotic agents.
Yeah,
in the
equally
non-local
contagious.
field, right?
Yeah.
Equally contagious, and that's what I'm trying to bring, and I know so are you. The idea that as we turn more and more people on, to who they are in a way that unlocks their creativity and their love and compassion, they see the dreamlike nature, they recognize the non-local field. There are a zillion ways of describing it. Then all of a sudden, we can get in phase. And, when the 100th monkey idea, when there's a sufficient sort of number of people who are like in resonance in that way, it can dream the rest of the dream into that. That's the sacred power of dreaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's. I feel so blessed to have had a direct way to have my way of knowing my own anthro-ontology, what I feel and know in my body through my practice of the medicine journeys, and so many things.
I'm going to pop it off there, but you guys can go watch the rest of that because it's really interesting. But I find it interesting because they're talking about shamanic journeys. And on our show about possession, we talked about the mace energy. And I think when we started the show, we talked about Watiko and all this stuff based in trauma and all the psyops they do to trauma. And there has to be some sort of measure to kind of move the energy in your body to sort of tap it out. There's mace energy, psyche, there's all different kind of methods. Shamans can do it where they can move the energy so that you kind of shift the trauma around because it stores in your body. That's why you get triggered and you have PTSD and all this stuff. So I think there's some things to look up for that, with where it's mace energy systems or psyche or tapping stuff, where you're actually trying to move energy along in your body so that you can kind of actually physically deal with Watiko and trapped stuff. And the group dynamics is a big problem, and they know this. That's why they want collectives. Collectives are important because you think you're more powerful in groups, but you can also get lost in groups, and they can manipulate groups, and they can create the shadow on the walls that make you in fear and all this stuff. So that is what I would actually kind of recommend, is you find some kind of tapping, some kind of, and even those groups, you could get into some kind of Watiko in those groups. I've seen it happen, but I would say if you study kind of energy tapping and meditation and kind of removing yourself, like he says, so you're non-local, that's kind of the key to Watiko. And just realizing that when you're getting angry, your Watiko is being activated from whatever in that person, and kind of remove yourself from that situation so you don't become dissociated from your own thoughts and wrapped up into that kind of chaotic dynamic. And that would also mean internet breaks, because this is the ultimate Watiko manufacturing system. Like I said, look at the algorithm. It's shaped to actually feed you more of the stuff that you say you don't like because you keep looking at it. It's in our biology, right? To kind of look at things and warn people of the dangers in life. But I think we're creating the dangers. They're creating the trauma. They're creating more Watiko. So that's the show today. We're over 2 hours here. I didn't even think I was going to be able to talk that long, but I did. It is absolutely amazing that I was actually even able to do that. So we're going to tie the show up, and I want you guys to remember to thumbs up, share, subscribe on the channel, and show up next Sunday. We're not going to do a middle week show. I have too much to do this week, and Walter Bosley will be on, and we're going to be talking about Latitude 33. Is Disneyland a portal to another dimension? Is that location, was it chose for that specific reason? Walter's written books on this and talked about this, so we are actually going to have a guest on next Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern. I hope you guys found that interesting. I would research yourself. Don't take my word for it. Just research yourself and try to recognize the Watiko in yourself when you're getting into these dynamics. And of course, observe, don't absorb, like we always say. And don't go to these live events. Do not wear their logos. Don't stamp yourself like chattel with what they want you in the ownership. Don't give them your money, and try not to give them a lot of your attention. Focus on whatever it is you like: yard work, gardening, knitting, I don't know, golf. And try, and when you do get upset, realize that's your Watiko. It's coming up. We all have trauma. There's tons of pain all over this planet, and we've absorbed it too. And I will let you guys go on with your Sunday. I'm going to go on with mine. I'm having an early night tonight, guys. 2 hours of sleep just wasn't enough. I'm surprised I'm not Watiko-ing it all over the place. But you guys were wonderful. I thank you so much, and I will see you next Sunday with Walter Bosley.